I'm Gage Paul from The Games Outfit, and this is our Batman Arkham Knight Games Outfit review. Batman Arkham Asylum was probably one of my favorite games of the last generation. As a huge Batman fan, it was nice to finally have a game that truly made you feel like The Dark Knight. But even I can admit that Arkham Origins made me feel a little bit of Batman fatigue. So when I loaded up Arkham Knight for the first time, I was nervous that this would be the game that finally broke the Bat's back. Luckily, these worries were immediately forgotten. Batman Arkham Knight is the gameplay pinnacle of the series. The combat system has been refined and perfected. The game doesn't hold your hand and walk you through the mechanics you already knew from previous games. It knows you've probably played a Batman game before and opens up its world to you almost right away. Its story doesn't pull any punches either. With the death of the Joker in Arkham City, Scarecrow and a new villain, the Arkham Knight, try to take his place. Threatening Gotham with a special version of the Scarecrow's fear toxin, Batman will have a long night trying to take them down. One filled with some of the darkest and most memorable scenes in the Arkham series yet. To help him take on these villains, Batman's been decked out in more Bat gadgets than ever, including the Batmobile for the first time ever in the series. Racing around Gotham is really satisfying and actually controls really well. The Batmobile can smash through almost any obstacle in its path, and its handling is very forgiving. And by simply holding down the left trigger, you convert the Batmobile into an incredibly mobile tank. This is how you'll spend most of your time in the Batmobile, either fighting drones or solving puzzles in the environment. I was skeptical about these sections before release, because when I think about Batman, I don't really think about tank combat. Although these sections aren't the highlight of the game, I still enjoyed eviscerating drones in the Batmobile. The drones pretty much announce their attacks with blue lines showing where they're about to fire, and this gives you plenty of time to dodge and fire off your own attacks. With multiple different types of drones and tons of different upgrades to the Batmobile's weapons like EMPs and hacking enemy drones, the combat manages to change itself up enough over the course of the game to stay fresh. It does feel a little bit out of place in the game, but I found myself really enjoying these sequences when they came up. Arkham Knight will live or die with the Batmobile. If you enjoy it, you will probably love this game. Unfortunately, if you don't, Arkham Knight could disappoint you. The Batmobile certainly does help you get around early in the game. Gotham City is huge, with multiple islands that all feel as big as Arkham City. And if you don't want to drive around the city, you don't have to. Batman can basically fly in this game. Launching himself out of the Batmobile hundreds of feet into the air allows him to glide across almost an entire island. Luckily, the traversal never feels tedious. I never pick a side quest and then groan because it's located all the way on the other side of the map. Which is really good, because if you want to complete everything in this game, you're going to have to travel across Gotham a lot. The world is filled with more side content than ever before, and the majority of it is great. Side quests dealing with iconic and more obscure Batman villains were probably my favorite part of the game, with characters like Man-Bat, Two-Face, and even Hush making an appearance. Unfortunately, not all the side quests were great. A few of them, usually the ones involving the Batmobile, were fairly generic. Like taking down enemy APCs. Chasing these vehicles down was easy to do, and there was no real story behind it, and it just served to pad out the length of Arkham Knight. The Riddler also returns in maybe his most disappointing appearance yet. I loved solving his riddles in the first game by scanning answers to his questions in the environment. These sections usually involve knowing something about the Batman universe and were rewarding to solve. And although there are still a few of these in the game, a lot of the Riddler's challenges involve racing or solving puzzles in the Batmobile. I was a little disappointed to not see challenge maps making a return as well, especially since the combat is better than ever. Batman's brutal combat has been perfected. Building up combos has never been as enjoyable, with more gadgets in his tool belt than ever before. Batman has a wide variety of new options, such as taking weapons from enemies and performing environmental takedowns. The new enemies do change up the way you have to play, but seeing as this is the fourth Batman game, I still found myself getting through most of the combat scenarios without much trouble. Tag team fights was also a great addition to the combat, allowing Batman to team up with Robin, Nightwing, and Catwoman for certain fights, taking out armies of goons as a duo, switching seamlessly between takedowns, bringing some of the biggest highlights of the game. Even if this mechanic was a little underused. Unfortunately, you don't get to run around Gotham as other characters, instead only using them in certain fights. I can understand why Rocksteady did this, but it is a little disappointing. Stealth gameplay was always a highlight for me in the Arkham games, and I loved it in Arkham Knight. New enemies that can disable or detect you if you use your detective vision was a nice change of pace. In most of the previous games, I would have my detective vision permanently on in the stealth section, so I knew where every enemy was. Taking that away from me made me take a lot more risks in the Predator sections, and changed up how I played. It's hard to talk about the story of this game without giving too much away. It's these twists that are revealed throughout the game that really make this story great, and while I did love most of them, a few of them did disappoint me. But as the ending of a series, I think this game handled its wrap-up of the Batman franchise beautifully. Definitely the darkest Batman game yet, and it took a lot of inspiration from some of my favorite Batman comics. As a whole, it was a well-deserved ending for The Dark Knight. I reviewed this game on a PS4 and had almost no major issues with how the game ran. Unfortunately, that was not the case on the PC. The PC version was almost unplayable for most people, and the game is actually being pulled from Steam, so I can't recommend that version of the game. Arkham Knight has perfected the Batman formula. With amazing gameplay and a shocking story, this is truly a great send-off for The Dark Knight. The Arkham games have not only made an impact on video games, but on the Batman mythos as a whole. I give Batman Arkham Knight a 4 out of 5. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you thought of Batman Arkham Knight in the comments down below, and stick around to The Games Outfit for more videos.